SCORE Northeast Wisconsin and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biztalk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences. From starting to sustaining growth, learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you miss anything, you can catch the Biztalk podcast at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biztalk on WHBY.
Good morning and happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I'm Rick Sentz, and joining me as special guest host this week is John Drengler. John, how are you doing?
Hey, Rick, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. So what do you have planned with your special other one this afternoon or evening for Valentine's
it's going to be after the show, probably a run to the grocery store and cooking up a nice dinner this evening.
Hey, that sounds good. I thought you were going to tell me you're going to find some flowers or something last minute.
It was supposed to be a surprise, but if she's listening to the show this morning, I guess I better do an even better job cooking.
I feel bad. I ruined your Valentine's Day. I'm sorry, John. Tell your wife I apologize. Well, we have a great show today, and to get us moving on that, I'm going to turn the show over to John and let him introduce our guest.
Thank you, Rick. Today's guest is Peter Kelly. A number of you might recognize the name. For many years, Peter served as president and CEO of the United Way Fox Cities. Since retiring from that role, he's been very active in the community and currently serves on the board of directors with First 5 Fox Valley. And so we're going to learn a lot about that and things going on. Peter, it's good to have you on the show today. Thank you for joining.
Well, John, great to be with you. Great to see you and Rick.
Peter and I go way back. One of my first jobs out of college over 40 years ago with Menasha Corporation, where Peter and I were colleagues back then. And so it's been a long journey. A little bit, I think the listeners might like to hear, Peter, what brought you from the for-profit corporate world into a very productive and long-lasting nonprofit service leadership role that you serve with the United Way? Talk a little bit about that journey for us.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Well, I was at Menasha 12 years, and during that time I did a lot of volunteer work because Menasha really encouraged all of their employees to get involved in the community. It's where we all live, work, and play, and they wanted us involved. So my mentor at Menasha, George Waite, encouraged me to consider volunteering at United Way. I did that. I got very involved to the point that I was the chair of the board of directors at the time my predecessor retired. So, fast forward to, I think it was 1998. Mark Germano was his name. Mark took a position in Michigan. And as both of you probably know from your own volunteer experience, one of the things you don't expect as a board member, or especially a board chair, is to hire the new executive. Yet that's indeed what we had to do. So we did a national search. Started in January and ended up interviewing candidates in the March-April timeframe. And throughout this process, I had been serving as sort of a de facto interim CEO at the organization, just providing a bit of counseling, if you will. I won't even say. I didn't know a lot about the inner workings of United Way at the time. At any rate, we did this search. I was a part of that committee. We made an offer to somebody, and that person said no. And everybody was flabbergasted. And we were going to go back to the table and start the whole process again, when the person leading that search asked if I had ever considered serving in the role. And very honestly, to that point, I never had thought of it. But I told him I'd think about it over the weekend and let him know if I was interested. I agreed to interview. I said I was interested. One day I sat with these individuals on the same side of the table. The next day I was across the table from them, went through the interview process, and they offered me the job. But I took the job knowing that I wasn't the first candidate. So I always kept that in the back of my mind when I stepped into the role. But I loved it. It was a great experience, and we live in a great community, which really supports the nonprofit sector, which made my job a lot easier.
Coming from the corporate side, there is always a lot of solicitations coming towards you to give to an organization like the United Way. Having had that background and now in the chair of running the organization, I would think communicating the real needs of the Fox Valley area is an important part of that role. How did that kind of progress over your time and your years with United Way? Getting the corporate world and partners to understand what the real needs of the Valley were.
Right. Well, I think you just hit on the end, the back of it, or the goal of it, John, and that is getting people to understand what the needs are. One of the pleasures I had as a volunteer at United Way, I was the chair of what we called our allocations committee back then, but making, we'd raise money and then we'd give it to the organization. So I oversaw that process. And the people raising the money that year were John Bergstrom and Oscar Bolt. And I thought, what a wonderful tandem to learn from. And, they talked about fundraising, and Oscar in particular, helped me understand that, somebody saying no or they're not going to support you is he looked at it really as his miscommunication, and not the organization deciding that, they didn't want to give. It's all about helping somebody understand how their gift can make an impact in the community. That's what it boils down to. And I will admit, I took the role, and one of my least favorite things to do is raise money. And yet that's a primary aspect of it. So I always approach raising money as sort of not asking for money. It's telling a story, and telling a story that compels people to think about doing something a little bit different or helping to support. That's how I approached it.
What are some of the challenges that stand out during this period of time that maybe others in the community might not have realized were issues, either needs going on that were unfulfilled or even challenges and hurdles that you faced at United Way?
Yeah, it's funny when you're in the heat of the battle, you think you're the only one to deal with these issues. But I think the issues that I dealt with are the same issues that a lot of people are dealing with today. We had a shrinking base of corporate-owned businesses. So no longer was a decision on a large gift made here in Appleton or Neenah or Menasha. It went to Philadelphia or somewhere else to make that decision. So you had that happening. You had, a shrinking of the workforce, very honestly, in a lot of areas. A change in the way in which, organizations were funded. A lot of, believe it or not, we're not going through the first time that, government has talked about, scaling back the amount of support they give to the nonprofit sector. So all of those things were issues that we dealt with. We felt we were unique at the time, but the reality is everybody today is dealing with pretty much those same issues.
Sure. And there's so many emerging. We find as SCORE mentors, a lot of nonprofits have really identified true unmet needs in the community. Oftentimes, under the umbrella of the United Way, they're looking for being part of the programs and the support. If I'm one of those small organizations, how do I raise my hand to get noticed by the United Way and to be part of the collaboration of resources and things going on to
that's a great question. Actually, that continues to evolve. I know that this year, Lisa Kogan-Praska, who is the CEO at United Way, made some significant changes this year. And they asked the community for letters of intent to apply for funding. So you didn't need to be a, quote, member organization. It was open to anybody in the community. And the idea was that United Way had established some priority areas for the community, and organizations that were delivering services around those priorities were really encouraged to support or to ask for support. So I think it gets back to where we started the whole conversation. What's the need? And if you're delivering a program that's addressing that need, you have a much better chance of gaining support from United Way in this particular case. But this holds true with businesses as well. I think we all know that corporations today have areas of focus, whether or not it's to support the product they make or their employees, whatever. But everybody has a focus for what they want to do and how they want their gifts to make a difference. So it's aligning the need with that focus and then telling the right story.
How many years were you with United Way?
Just over 23.
So as you wound down from that role, and being as active as you've always been in the community, how did you decide and canvas for the next areas that you wanted to stay involved with and continue contributing as you do?
Well, some advice that I got was really the first year sort of just step back, let others, get engaged. As well as I didn't want to cast a shadow over my predecessor or any of their work. So I stepped back. I did not consciously did not get too engaged in any volunteer work, with the exception of being on the Park and Rec Commission for the city of Neenah, which I'd been on for a very long time. So it was really taking a year of quiet, John, and then deciding after that how I wanted to get involved. And my life was changing. Katie, my spouse, was worked for a year longer than I did, so she was getting ready to retire, so that meant we were going to be able to travel more, see our kids who are across the country. We have 2 grandchildren, so that took a priority. And then we got down to, okay, how do I want to get involved in other things in the community?
How did you see what were obviously things that were passion projects, areas that have been an interest going way back into your United Way days, but how did you kind of hone in and leading to the work you're doing now with First 5 Fox Valley?
Well, truth be told, they sort of found me. First 5, I don't know if this is a good segue to that, but when I was working, I was a strong advocate for early childhood initiatives. To me, it was important really from a workforce perspective. I took maybe a little bit of a different approach to my involvement in the early childhood arena. But I looked at it and I saw, parents in the workforce struggling to find childcare, wondering where to go to get quality childcare. Their kids were entering school unprepared to learn. There were just a whole host of issues that were impacting the workforce. And it's like anything. The earlier you can address an issue, the better we are. We can, avoid problems down the road. So early childhood became a strong focus. First 5 Fox Valley was a small little organization focused on one little element of early childhood, and suddenly this opportunity for a family resource center came up, and they needed to take a look at broadening their resource. They were going to need to raise some money, and they wanted to get people engaged to help them do that. So I, along with John Stellmacher, who retired executive vice president from Thrivent, and Dean Gruner, the retired CEO of of ThedaCare, the 3 of us were strong proponents for early child care during our working career. We were recruited to help lead this effort to raise money for the First Family Resource Center. So
All right.
that's how I got involved. Sorry for the long.
Thank you.
Very interesting. We're going to take our first break and get back to, as soon as we can, our very interesting discussion with Peter Kelly this morning. You're listening to Biztalk with Score on WHBY, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back. We're glad you joined us this morning on Biztalk with Score. Our guest is Peter Kelly, former president and CEO of the United Way Fox Cities and currently on the board of directors for First 5 Fox Valley. Before we continue our conversation with Peter, I'd like to tell you a little bit about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin. SCORE serves a 29-county area that covers northeast and north central Wisconsin. We have over 30 volunteers, and each of them are an expert in their field, offering entrepreneurs no-cost and confidential mentoring. These areas of expertise include IT, social media, marketing, accounting, strategic planning, retail, best practices, and many others. In order to register for a no-cost and confidential mentoring session or to learn more about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin, visit the website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. There, you can learn more about the SCORE chapter, look up resources and tools and webinars to assist yourself, and also, as you're getting either starting or growing your business, go ahead and complete an application, and we'd be glad to set up a mentoring session with you. In just a few days, a SCORE mentor will reach out and set up that meeting. Remember, SCORE is no cost, and it offers experts who can assist you with many different areas of your business. To get started again, visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And to support small business people, the SCORE chapter is always looking for new mentors and business subject matter experts. If you have experience that you'd like to share with others, we'd love to talk to you. We welcome volunteers with experience in all aspects of business, and small business owners and entrepreneurs really need help, and your experience can make a real difference with their getting started and their ongoing success. So go to score.org, Northeast Wisconsin, click on the volunteer button. You'll fill out a short application, and we'll get back to you to explain more. And finally, this reminder about Biztalk with Score podcast. The Biztalk with Score podcast brings the same real-world information and insights from experienced entrepreneurs and business leaders, just like you're hearing from Peter Kelly today. We have it on Score on HBY with Biztalk, and also the podcast is available when you are. So listen and subscribe. It's available on most podcatchers and podcast apps. So thank you again for joining us on Biztalk with Score. And now back to our discussion with Peter Kelly.
So, Peter, during the first segment, you made an interesting comment talking about impact on the quality of life in our area and how that impacts workforce development issues. I was wondering if we could maybe just spend a moment talking about that from your perspective, having been in your role. You really got to understand and know the different employers, the different industries, businesses, nonprofit community in the area. Can you maybe give listeners an idea from your perspective, how important is the nonprofit community and its impact on the quality of life for an area like ours?
Well, I think it's critical to adding to the quality of life in any community, really, Rick. If you take a look at, a for-profit sector, nonprofit, faith-based, none of those sectors can operate in isolation. The workforce needs employees. Employees come from the community. The more people we have in a community, the more services that they need, want, and use in a community. I always approached things as though we needed to work hand in hand as partners in helping to build the community. We're only as strong as the weakest link, really. What's the old adage? A rising tide lifts all ships. So that was the approach that I took and tried to use when working with our partners in raising money for the community.
And when you were talking with business leaders and asking them to support the work that was being done at United Way, what kind of feedback did you get from those organizations and their view of the important work that was being done by United Way and the nonprofit community?
Well, sometimes that feedback was immediate. No, we don't want to support you. Okay, fine. We understand that. We're not for everybody. But when we worked with organizations that did support us, it was often because of the work we did that really benefited their employees. If you take a look at early childhood things, I already mentioned how parents and especially younger parents struggle in so many areas or in raising a family. There's no owner's manual on it. So we are all trying to figure out how to make this work. Some individuals need support in other ways. Look at the arts and music and things like that. Adds a huge amount of quality of life to our community. It's an outlet for all of us to go and sort of recharge our batteries, if you will. Same with nature, anything else. So I at United Way looked at how together we had an impact on the community.
Great. And with that, it's a great time to take our second break. You're listening to Biztalk with Score on WHBY, and we will be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Biztalk with Score on WHBY. I'm Rick Sense, along with special guest host this week, John Drengler, and we are having a wonderful, very interesting conversation with former United Way CEO, Peter Kelly, and Peter is now a volunteer for an organization called First 5 Fox Valley. So, Peter, I have to ask for those listeners that might not know what that is, can you just let everybody know exactly what First 5 Fox Valley is and does?
Certainly, Rick. First 5 Fox Valley is the outgrowth of something called the Fox Valley Early Childhood Coalition. And when I was working, this was a group of primarily child care providers and organizations that are working in the early childhood arena that will come together every month to talk about issues that impacted that early childhood space, if you will. They would always bring up all sorts of issues that the group would like to focus on, but it was challenging because everybody left the room to go back to their day job. And there's really no leadership for anything to really get done. And you felt like you're just coming together every month and rehashing stuff. Well, coming out of this, though, the idea for First 5 Fox Valley was created, and they took the initial goal, I think, of First 5 was to really be an advocate, a champion for the early childhood space, to be a voice for those in that former Fox Valley Early Childhood Coalition. And they tried to talk about being sort of what United Way was to a number of the things we did in the community. If you wanted to talk about particular issues, United Way would often be an advocate for that. We would raise money. We would help support programs in those areas. And that's sort of how First 5 evolved. They are that advocate for early childhood. They saw an opportunity to create some programming, and that program is called Help Me Grow. Back again when I was working, one of the things I always heard was, our children are entering school unprepared to learn. Okay, great. You're telling us that. How do we know that? What does unprepared to learn mean? And how do we go about measuring how well we're doing? If we're going to start to put some money behind that, how do we know what sort of impact we're having? Well, they created, or there is a program out there called Help Me Grow, which is uses something called Ages and Stages. It's called the ASQ, Ages and Stages Questionnaire, that really does or monitors early childhood development from birth to age 5, i.e. the first 5 years. They are critical to child development, brain development. 90% of an individual's brain develops in those first 5 years of life. So they're critical, and it's important to know how well that brain is developing. Ages and Stages is the tool that helps anybody understand how their child is developing. So that was the impetus really behind First Five. They started to create a network that would allow them to get this questionnaire out to families, because it's primarily administered by a parent, most effective when it's administered by a parent. So today, the Theta Care system uses the ASQ questionnaire throughout the system, and it is in the Epic medical record, so that we're monitoring how well the brain is developing. And last year, through 2025, I believe that we had completed, I think it was 9,000 early childhood development assessments. And from those assessments, we learned that just over 50% of the kids were being referred for additional services. There was a lack of development, if you will, in one area. So we have resources in this community that can help the family address that. And that's the first spot. That's how they were created. That's what was going on. COVID comes around. We're coming out of COVID, and we learn that many parents are feeling a sense of loneliness, isolation. I think there was a survey that we were made aware of that 69% of parents overall were lonely. 70% of single family or single parent families felt alone and needed help in parenting. So that was the idea of a family resource center sort of came out of there. Turns out that within the state of Wisconsin, 68%, almost 70% of the counties in the state have a family resource center to do exactly what we're trying to do. But the nearest one to us is either Green Bay or Fond du Lac. So I wasn't even involved at this point. It was really Barb Tengsdale, who is the executive director of First Five, along with Oliver Zorno from the Building for Kids and some others, that decided they were going to explore opportunities for a family resource center. So I'll stop there and ask if you have any questions, and then we can get into sort of the evolution of the resource center.
Peter, there's obviously what First Five has found, that with programs like the growth and Help Me Grow and all of these, there was a real need. And we hear on the news that starting in summer of 2026, what was the old building for the Trout Art Museum is now going to be the location for the Family Resource Center. Tell us a little bit about what some of the services are that are going to deliver on some of these needs
Sure, absolutely. John, before I get to that, I just want to give a shout out to Outagamie County and the city of Appleton, who really took some of the money that was made available during the pandemic to invest it in the community. And they decided that Outagamie County and Appleton in particular were going to be family-centric. If you take a look at downtown Appleton, we've got the Building for Kids. library, the new library, the YMCA, and now right in the heart of downtown Appleton, we will have a family resource center, which says volumes for the city and the county, feeling that that's where they wanted to really invest some money. So the opportunity came to purchase that building. First Five did that. And now we're in the process of, this fundraising campaign to create a truly dynamic family resource center. And the best way to maybe explain it is to sort of walk through the old Trump Museum and explain how we envision the building being used. Is that okay?
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
You bet.
The first floor and the mezzanine really are what I would call a play area. It's a space that is being curated actually by the Building for Kids to help us put something in the middle of the building that will be a resource for kids to spend time at, to play, to interact, to use while their parents may be getting services in other parts of the building, etc. But when you come in, you will see this welcoming area that's a play area. The mezzanine really works on top of the, literally, I guess, in having some additional support things for the kids. And at the, I think it'd be the east end of the building on that mezzanine level is sort of a family wellness area where a lot of different wellness activities can take place. The third floor right now is going to be dedicated to childcare. We've done an RFP to different providers to deliver that service. First Five Fox Valley, by the way, will not be providing any of these services. We're going to pull different organizations together that are focused on helping children and families, and they'll be housed in the building. We're simply the landlord for that facility. So that RFP is out there. We've got an interested party. I'm afraid I can't disclose who that is at this point in time, but we're excited about that third floor being used for childcare, and more importantly, delivering childcare with a slightly different focus on sort of a play-based model and some learning that will come about as a result of that program taking place. The fourth floor then is where we envision a number of different organizations that are dealing or helping support children and families will be located, so that when a parent comes to the building, services that they're likely to need will be housed there, sort of that one-stop shop. And certainly the people within that building know where other resources are if they're not co-located there. So,
Peter, can I just interject with a question on this? As you continue, you're mentioning a lot of clear needs and some wonderful partnerships with different groups participating. As you're addressing this, do they share, and how do you ensure that the deliverables share on a common vision for what the Family Resource Center really wants to achieve on behalf of the community, and most importantly, the parents and children that you're looking to serve?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think, well, first of all, we've done a lot of background work on this in the preceding years with all of the organizations that we're trying to pull together on this to make them aware of this. They've been very supportive. I think we've had 270 letters of support or something to that magnitude, believing that this is the right thing to do for the families in our community. So what we're trying to do on that fourth floor is get a diverse group of services that are going to meet sort of some of the really basic needs. And some of those services would be likely to be organizations that are helping families around housing, food security, insecurity, health and wellness, a lot of children's mental health issues, which I was involved in, again, back at United Way. We really believe if we can address those earlier, we can save a lot down the road. Parent education, a lot of things around parenting to be provided in the facility. Early intervention services. I mentioned these assessments that we do. I'll speak for myself. I had a son who really didn't speak a lot in his first 3 years. So we went to early intervention services, and they work on the speaking ability of kids. Today, that son, it's hard to get him to be quiet. So it's a little developmental delay, if you will. And I don't mean to poke fun at it, but early intervention services are critical to making sure that a child's developing well. So those types of services will also be there. So those entities will be on the fourth floor, and by proximity, as well as sort of requiring it in the lease, they'll be working together to figure out how, once they're now together, how collaborating can bring more effective services to the children and families that we're trying to help. And then the fifth floor will be some more office space, some administrative things, and then community rooms where groups can come for larger meetings, that type of thing. The whole building really is intended, though, to be a community building, something that everybody in the Fox City should really find worthwhile and hopefully supportive of.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's built for growth and for development. So at this point, I know it's early days, but if there's any individual or group or organization that would like to get involved with what's being put together here, how could they do that, and what steps and what's needed do you see?
Sure. Well, I think, I'll cut to the chase. My goal right now is to raise money. So we welcome anybody that wants to step in and support us financially, because the reality is none of it gets done without the money there to support it. So, but once the doors are open and we're available for service, there'll be, I think, lots of different partnering opportunities with organizations throughout the community, where going back to our earlier conversation at the start of the podcast, talking about the workforce, we can be a resource for the employees of different organizations in the community, and helping young parents really learn about their family, about their children, about this community, and how being a part of the community really is important for all of us.
Sure. As we get closer to the summer opening of the Resource Center, how do you see promoting it in the community, advertising, if you will, but just getting word of mouth out on a very important message?
Yeah, John, we're doing everything we can to try and get the word out. We recently hired somebody to help us with that. Her expertise is really in the social media and digital distribution of the message, if you will. And it's critical that we do this effectively, because our services are there for everybody, but the challenge is helping people know that they're available. And we're doing, again, everything that we can in that area.
All right. I think we've come to the time to take our third break. You're listening to Biztalk with Score on WHBY, and a very interesting conversation. And when we come back, we're going to give you an opportunity to learn more about how you too can support the work that Peter has been talking about this morning, and maybe get involved if you're so inclined. So we'll be right back after these short messages. Welcome back to Biztalk with Score on WHBY. And before we get back to the program and our interesting discussion with Peter Kelly this morning, I'd just like to take a moment to thank our sponsors for their generous support of Biztalk. Hailing & Associates helps small businesses and individuals not just prepare tax returns, but to plan for the future. Hailing & Associates, personal connection, positive results. Wherever you are in life or the life of your business, Johnson Financial Group works to match the banking and wealth services needed to help you complete your mission. Thank you to the Business News for promoting our program in the biweekly business newspaper serving Northeast Wisconsin with the latest business news and topics for the region. We are grateful for the support of Community First Credit Union. At its core, Community First Credit Union is a community of member owners where people work together to improve their financial well-being, and help one another. New North Regional Marketing and Economic Development Corporation is an active supporter of SCORE. The New North facilitates economic growth and helps people in this region live their best lives. Since 1919, Baird has guided families through investment, trust, estate, and tax planning advice. So, no matter what your future brings, you can be confident you're ready because your family is Baird's focus. We'd also like to recognize the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Fund within the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region for their generous donation to Biztalk and SCORE Northeast Wisconsin. And with that, John, I'll turn the show back over to you.
Thank you very much, Rick. And Peter, thank you for your time today. This has been a great discussion and very educational of a very important resource that's going to be in our community. How could people best get a hold of information about the Family Resource Center and First Five?
I think the best way to do that, John, would be to visit the First Five website, and that's First Five, the number 5 written out, foxvalley.com, .org, first5foxvalley.org. And there'll be all sorts of information about the Family Resource Center, as well as the other work that First Five is doing in our community.
That's great. You know, listening to all that you've been telling us, going back to United Way days, and now with this great resource, words like collaboration and connections comes to mind, and partnerships. Obviously for parents, for early education, early childhood development, it's so vital. But to a lot of our SCORE clients and customers and small businesses, be they profit or nonprofit, those connections and collaboration opportunities seem to be there with the Family Resource Center. Any final words from you about how you see this in the future?
I think first of all, let me thank you for the opportunity to join both of you and first of all, strike up old friendships and also be able to get the word out about the First Five Fox Valley Family Resource Center. I truly believe it's going to be a critical asset to our community. The easier that we can make it for parents to raise children in our community, the better off we're all going to be. So the Fox Valley Family Resource Center will be that spot in our community that people will go to for all things children and family related. And I think I feel honored to be able to play a role in this. I know that John Stelmacher and Dean Gruner do as well. And, it's a challenge getting the word out, because this is a new concept. But I think once people understand what we're trying to do and the value that this will be for the community, it's an easier sell. And again, going back away to when we started, it's about telling the story and hopefully aligning that story with what individuals want to achieve in the community. So thankfully, we live in a truly wonderful place. I know that sounds trite. It's overstated way too much. But as one who's really depended upon this community for all of for a majority of my working career, I know what I speak of in this instance. It's a wonderful place to live, raise a family. So thank you both for giving me an opportunity to talk, and I'll ask if you have any final questions.
I have a real quick one for you, Peter. Are you having fun?
I'm having a blast, Rick. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's great.
I really appreciate you coming on this morning. It's been a really great opportunity to learn more about this wonderful and exciting new opportunity for the area. And folks, you're listening to Biztalk with SCORE this morning. We appreciate your support and listening in. We'll catch you next week on WHBY. And remember, the podcast downloads on Wednesday. So if you want to hear what Peter has to say again, you're more than welcome to take a listen already on Wednesday this week. And certainly you can go there and take a listen to other podcasts and other episodes from previous guests. So thanks again for listening. Have a great Valentine's Day and take care.